Hey guys, what's up? It's Wigwam here. Welcome back to my review show, the show where you have to ask yourself, do you think he's wearing pants during this review? You'll never know. Let's review Moon Hunters. Moon Hunters is living proof that when an idea seems too good to be true, it probably is. Moon Hunters came to Kickstarter with this amazing concept for a progressively generating game with a story that changes every single time you play it. Well, what we got was not that at all. Moon Hunters does have levels that are different every time, but they're bland and boring. Most areas seem to be desert areas, which are exactly what they sound like. Large, mostly empty, monochromatic areas filled with boring, basic enemies. But then again, to be fair, all the areas are like that, whether they're mountains or rivers or whatever. Some of the earlier maps are small and most just feel completely empty. There's no real reason to explore other than to just get money. Plus, all areas seem to have the same basic enemies, most of which just chase you around the map until you finally stop and fight them. And why wouldn't you just fight them to begin with? Well, basically the only reward for fighting enemies is money or health. Health being something you of course don't need if you're running away from all the enemies. And the combat is just boring. There is little to no knockback or stun on any enemies when you attack with any of the characters, which means you either attack from a distance or you take damage. This probably is not a problem with multiple players, but good luck playing with anybody else. Even though the game is fully released, the online does not work at all. It's been over a week trying to get an online game and I was never able to join a single one. Okay, plan B, I'll just play with my roommates. Right? Wrong! The game crashes every 2 minutes when you add a second player. On top of that, we had to decipher the code to get into the game. When playing with 2 people, if I use the controller to hit new game, the game would crash. But then if I use the keyboard as the first player, the game would crash. And then if I change my color too much, the game would crash. And then of course, just playing the game would basically cause the game to crash. I would have footage of all this, but the footage also got corrupted due to all the crashing. And you know what makes this especially terrible? The game takes about 2 minutes to load up. First of all, that is unacceptable in 2016 for this small pixel art indie game. Even the load screen just gets bored and gives up. So this game is meant to be enjoyed as a multiplayer game, but there is no functional multiplayer. So let's just keep reviewing it as a single player game. That's not gonna bode well for you Moon Hunters, I gotta tell you right now. Apart from all the bugs that make the game unplayable, the game itself is actually just not fun. So let's talk about that dynamic story that Moon Hunters promised. It's basically the same every single time. No matter your character, your starting tribe, your palette swap, you will go through the following story. Spoilers ahead. The Sun Cult is rising, and maybe, but not entirely sure because it's never made clear, has stopped the Moon Goddess from appearing. You, as the last hero of the Moon People, must go murder the Sun People's king. And do you know what happens when you win and you murder the king? All of his disciples are cast into the wasteland to die, and the Moon Goddess still doesn't come back. And you know what? Everybody's miserable. Good job, hero! Even when you die, it actually seems like the better outcome. The Sun Tribe brings a prosperous nation of great technology and knowledge. Sure, they kinda went all Roman on your ass and conquered your people, but then they went all Roman on your ass and improved your way of living with better technology. That's a win. You may actually be the villain in this game, which is ironic because in the many character encounters that are designed to change the dynamic part of the story, you're always the good guy. Deny this man water in the desert so that he will certainly die? No worries, just deliver a letter for him. He's cool with it. He knows it'd be an inconvenience for you. He doesn't want to do that to you. Try to save this marriage, but accidentally encourage the bride to run off into the wilderness? It's cool. She's probably way happier now that she's been eaten by a wolf. And these are supposed to be the parts of the story that change every time, but it doesn't offer me the option to actually change the story or change my character. I'm just a different color of good guy every time. And you end up getting the same interactions over and over again. It only took me 3 playthroughs before I felt like almost every interaction I was running into was one that I had already done. And as I said, no matter what you do in your character design in the beginning, it's not gonna affect that at all. I understand that what Moon Hunters had promised was pretty much impossible. A changing story for a small indie group is is pretty much just an impossible task. There's too much to do to make something like that work, which is fine. I could have forgiven that if the game wasn't so boring. The same events repeat almost every time. There's really just a handful of interactions. There's just one story. Unlocking new things is pointless because most of the things you unlock have little to no impact on actual gameplay. Hell, even the character costumes that you unlock, there's only one costume per character, and all the alternate costumes are the same. They're all a flamey spirit version of the regular character that you're playing as. That's it. That's the only thing they could think of. The combat is boring, which might be better with friends, but we'll never know. And I think the worst part of this entire game is the way the story is told. It's nothing but static images with a bit of panning motion, always set to the one same acoustic song with gibberish lyrics, and I get it, it's an ancient language, except no, it's literally just gibberish. The story isn't new or exciting, and the way it's told is just lazy. There's no other word for it but lazy. It really breaks up the experience, it takes me out of the game, and some of the images just seem unfinished. Look at that one. You can see the sketch lines. That would barely even pass as a finished storyboard in most games, and in this game it's the final cutscene. It's pretty much a metaphor for this entire game. An interesting concept that has just been lazily slapped together. It's an inspired idea with a completely uninspiring end product. I really wanted to like Moon Hunters. It was cool, it was different, except it ended up not being any of those things. The game just fell short in just about every category. I unfortunately have to say this is absolutely a don't buy, even if they fix the multiplayer, even if they got the game working. You still have boring combat, you still don't really have a dynamic story. It just didn't work. But that's just my opinion on the matter. If you've played the game and you'd like to let me know your thoughts, leave them down below, as well as if there's any games coming up that you'd like me to review. I've been Wigwam, thank you for joining me, I love your beautiful faces, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye. That's how I piano. That's how I play piano. The story was okay. I never really got gripped into it, nor did I really